welcome to another Tips on Tuesday. Just recently there's been lots of news about aircraft crashes, some carrying skydivers on board, others that are just general aviation. So I thought this would be a timely reminder to talk about what to do in the event of an aircraft emergency, or better still, how to avoid having one. Enjoy. So we're going to go into a little bit more depth around the topics covered in Section 3 of the British Skydiving Ops Manual, Jump Masters, and Section 10, Safety. So in the UK, the Operations Manual states that helmets must be worn for takeoff and landing, and if the aircraft has restraints, then these should be fitted. This is because data from air accident investigations, including skydiving accidents, has shown that if an aircraft has a hard or emergency landing, the risk of survival is greatly increased and the risk of injuries are reduced. If the aircraft develops a problem on takeoff or the initial climb, then you need to know the correct brace position for the aircraft that you're using, as this will further help reduce the risk of injury. As a licensed skydiver, have you ever considered what you would do in an aircraft emergency near the ground? And also what your lowest emergency exit height would be. Remember, your AAD doesn't arm on takeoff, so if you exit below 1400 feet with a Cypress, it will not function. Your reserve is tested for deployment as part of the TSO process, and it needs to be fully open within 300 feet regardless of freefall speed as part of the test. But your main canopy could take a lot longer than this. Having a skyhook isn't going to help in this situation, and if you need to deploy your reserve straight after exit, it may even slightly slow the deployment as it needs to disconnect to work in this type of situation. You're also going to need to be pretty confident about your exit stability and your ability to maintain stability whilst going for the reserve handle. Skydiving aircraft tend to be packed quite tightly for a full load, so there isn't much room available. During the climb, it's really important that movement is kept to a minimum, as this helps the pilot to manage the aircraft. You should also keep your handles and pins protected from accidentally being dislodged, and remember to carry out a system check before you exit the aircraft to make sure that everything is still in place. As well as checking your own gear, remember to keep an eye on other jumpers as well. Premature openings in the aircraft have caused several air crashes around the world, often resulting in the death of all on board. Remember, your pilot chute is designed to inflate and deploy your canopy, so if it gets into the slipstream, it will do just that and drag you with it, often resulting in severe damage to the aircraft and a loss of control for the pilot. For that reason, if the aircraft has an in-flight door, it should always be fully closed to stop a premature deployment from getting out, or fully open so that the jumper has the best chance of being dragged out without hitting parts of the aircraft. This incident in France in 2024 illustrates that point. The door had been opened to create a 10 centimetre gap to allow cooler air in. The resulting slipstream effect was enough to drag the jumper's pilot chute out of the spandex pocket and the jumper into freefall, smashing the door on the way out and almost causing damage to the horizontal stabiliser. The next most common cause of aircraft emergencies around the world is a stall caused by poor loading or jumpers ignoring the aircraft's central gravity limits. Most larger jump aircraft will have the C of G line marked in the passenger compartment, and often will have a note showing how many jumpers can be forward or after the line, depending on the aircraft type. If the load shifts beyond the C of G limits, the aircraft will tend to fly nose up, decreasing its airspeed over the wings, which could cause a rapid and sudden stall. This video shows what happens when that occurs. So if you're the nominated jump master, part of your responsibility is supervising the jumpers on board. And in an emergency, you may have to make decisions that could save lives. In an emergency, the pilot may not have a chance to communicate with you, as they'll be far too busy trying to fly the aircraft and find somewhere safe to land. As a B licensed jumper in the UK, you could be nominated as a jump master. So learn and remember these 5 simple rules. Restraints and helmets should be on for takeoff and landing. Remember, everybody needs to sit still and protect their handles and pins. Any in-flight door should always either be fully open or fully closed. Learn what the C/G limits and the load limits of the aircraft you're using are. And finally, have a plan and develop that plan now so you can adapt it if you need to use it. Trying to make it up in an emergency situation is never a good idea. So that's it for another week. Hope that was useful. Remember, stay safe and enjoy your skydives.